although Malaysia also has initiative taken for gender equity, but it is not evident as much as that is seen in India, where it's various schemes. I think I did discuss all these things earlier on. So this is my references, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ravi. Can you please stop your screen share so that if there are any questions,
Sure.
we may take them.
Yeah,
any
sure.
questions from the floor, please?
Hello, madam.
Yeah, hi, Vinya.
Dr. Ravi, I just have one question to ask of you.
Yes.
This is, do you suggest any common framework to promote gender equity in both India and Malaysia, given their scores respectively? Thank you.
Okay, I don't suggest any specific thing, but looking at those three frameworks which I have shared, it looks like the third one would be most ideal to discuss at this particular point of view, because there are a lot of data pertaining to this in the last few years. Because if you see, certain presenters had given data based on the last uh, uh, 10 years back or so, which would not be appropriate to discuss. I think this data, whatever I have shared here, would be more relevant and appropriate in the current context. Therefore, I think the third framework, which I just did discuss here in my presentation, would be more appropriate at this scenario.
Okay, any other questions for Dr. Ravi? Anyone? I can't see there are any questions in the chat. No. There's no questions in the chat. Any other? So can I ask devil's advocate kind of question to Dr. Ravi? Do you think, going back to the title of the conference, do you think gender responsive budgeting is actually a reality rather than a pipe dream, having looked at both countries?
Looking at both the countries, I would say that it is only a dream.
It's a dream. Okay, it's not reality yet.
Yeah. So I think it's only a dream, and it's the hope of every individual citizen of the respective countries. But it is in paper. I don't think it is yet a reality.
Okay. Anyone else has got any questions with respect to this topic? So, what do you think is the way forward? How do we get the various stakeholders to take gender responsive budgeting very seriously? Because this is one of the few instruments that can affect the lives of males and females through budgetary allocations. So do you have any ideas on what countries can do? As a way forward?
Madam, I just have a point of view to express over here.
Yeah, sure.
India, I see in two strands. One is a capitalist economy. The other one is a socialist economy. Here, both things happen simultaneously. The rich becoming richer and the poor becoming poorer. I see the reality post-COVID and even before the COVID really set into the world. So given this scenario, I think it should primarily start with the educational institutions promoting gender equality and equity, thereby claiming up to the societal background, then empowerment, and then moving on to the other sectors and finally reaching out to the national level. So I begin the task honestly lies with the educational institutions in promoting gender equity here. Thank you.
Okay, any reactions to the point made?
I strongly think that Sukanya's view is on her own perspective, and I have seen in both the countries, and I see that things in India has to change a lot compared to Malaysia. For example, if you see that she was mentioning about area in education, but according to the index score, whatever I have showed in the recent times, both the countries, be it Malaysia or be it in India, it is doing well. Education is one area which has not been adulterated yet by majority of the countries, at least in the Asian context I'm talking about. Politicians feel a bit. It is the one area which is untouched by the politicians. I feel, based on my experience, having lived in Malaysia or in India, because that is one area which they have not penetrated much. Uh, so therefore, education seems to be very nice, and gender equity is also balanced, I believe, in both the countries as far as education is concerned. But if you see the political aspect, you can see that index is has a huge difference between India and Malaysia, and reason is because in Malaysian context, the female, the women population don't go so much as Indians do in the political aspects, going into elections or whatever. The number of initiatives or number of allotments or number of interest shown among the women group is more in Indian context than in Malaysia. That is one thing. And the earnings also is huge difference between Malaysia and India, because there are certain things which deteriorate the women from Malaysia, because in certain parts of India, the women are not sent for jobs. Like for example, my own wife doesn't go for a job, so there are certain restrictions that going for a job is beyond their dignity or something like that. That's seen in Indian, but in Malaysia it's not like that. Everybody go for job, and both earnings comes to the family. But here in India, even if they are middle class, still they don't allow the women go for work. That's one thing which is having an impact on the gender equality. That's my views, Prof.
Okay, any other comments or views?
I actually agree with Dr. Ravi, what he says. Here, by education, I meant the holistic development of an individual along with a change in the attitude. I meant not only educating the women folks, but also men equally, so that the society has a balanced growth, and men also contribute to promoting gender equity and thereby growth of a nation. Thank you.
Anyone else has got comments before I round up the session? I've just got a couple of brief comments. One of the comments is on education, and I totally agree that the starting point is always education, and I totally agree with Suganya that it's not just enough to gender sensitize and gender educate women, you also need to gender educate men. So it has to be a holistic approach, and also, see, there have been various viewpoints presented by all the speakers, and I think as far as gender responsive budgeting is concerned, we are still very hopeful, Dr. Ravi, even though you said it's still a pipe dream. We are very hopeful and waiting very anxiously for the Malaysian budget, because the Prime Minister has promised a gender responsive budget for the for the bottom 40% of B40, the B40. So so that's something that I think all the gender budget group